Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the podcast. Today we are diving into maintaining results. In the past couple episodes, we talked about achieving the results and making sure that we don't burn our body out in the process and build our body back up. But today we're going to talk about how we can maintain long term, not just maintain for a couple weeks, a couple months, getting through that vacation. That's not our main focus here. But how can we make this our new body, our new lifestyle, without obsessing and feeling like we need to micromanage our food all the time. So before we get into that and dive into conscious consumption, which is what I like to call it, we're going to do a quick little recap of what we touched on episode 2, which was all about reverse dieting. We broke down what it is, how to do it, implementing it really simplistically to make sure that we are caring for our body either after a chronic dieting phase or after just a successful fat loss phase, to make sure that you are rebuilding your metabolic rate, keeping it fast, strong, allowing your hormones to function well, and getting to this place that we call food freedom. And I think that's what a lot of us really want, is being free from all of the food noise. So you may be sitting here listening to 1 and 2 and say, okay, I get it. Now what? I've done the work. I know what my body needs. I've reversed out. I'm eating more. What is this going to look like long term? And that's exactly what we're going to break down today, and why I call it conscious consumption, because we have to marry those two things, not only getting the results and maintaining them, but making sure that we are not overthinking everything in the process. So let's dive in. A lot of people I talked to, and myself included, felt like the only way to maintain the results that they have achieved meant that they needed to continually track every single morsel. They were going to stress out about everything, or they had to kind of fit themselves into this exact box. And that's what we're breaking away from today when we talk about conscious consumption. We're looking at finding structure within freedom, okay? We don't just want to have zero structure where we're throwing every habit to the wind and not doing anything that we need to. Having enough structure that allows us to feel like we know where we're going, we have confidence, and we know what to expect, but there's the freedom and flexibility of living a life full of enjoyment. So it's really about breaking away from obsession and avoiding burnout from those habits and allowing this to become second nature. When we talk about conscious consumption, it's really important to understand what exactly it is and define it appropriately. So it's really the middle ground between two extremes. On one hand, we have strict dieting, where we're tracking every single crumb and perfection totally creeps in. And on the other side, we have intuitive eating, where the guardrails are totally off. And that can really lead to some confusion, lack of results, whether that's externally or energy-wise or biofeedback, digestion. And then we start to slip back into either not feeling our best, not looking our best, or not having the food freedom that we're looking for. So when we say conscious consumption, it's really about finding the blend between those two things. It's an intentional way of eating where we are staying aware of what we're consuming. So that's where the conscious part of consumption comes from. There's an awareness, but there's not an obsession. You can think of it as eating in alignment with your goals, being able to notice your body cues like hunger and fullness, energy levels, performance, recovery, and having the habits, the structures, the rhythm, the routine, your go-to meals that allow you to feel supported without having to be super rigid. Conscious consumption is really about creating an internal system for staying on track and not having to rely on external apps and external accountability and external motivation in order to maintain those results. Before we get much further into this episode, I do want to be super clear about something. Conscious consumption is a passive phase. It's not something that we just arrive to. It's a skill. And since it's a skill, it means it takes practice. And for me, this was something that was really, really hard. I tended to be a black and white, all or nothing type of thinker with very perfectionistic tendencies. And so I used to track everything perfectly and then okay, I want to break into this intuitive eating or conscious consumption side. I'm just completely not going to track, and then totally fell off the rails. So just allowing yourself to know that we don't have to be all in or all out. And as we're building this, you have to think of building it as a skill and layering in one piece at a time. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more in depth, but I did just want to be super clear that even though we've gathered the data through understanding what our body needs for our metabolism, aligning that with going through either a successful fat loss phase, muscle building phase, reversing out and knowing how to maintain it from the data side of things, this piece does take time and it does take practice, and it is okay if you don't just absolutely crush it right from the start. The goal here is allowing you to stay connected to your goals without over analyzing and stressing about your goals, being able to take action that is in alignment with your true values, and really omitting that all or nothing side of thinking. And maybe most importantly, it helps you build trust with your body again. You're no longer second guessing every single craving, or you're like, hey, I'm not obsessing over food like I used to, because your body's out of this constant state of restriction or survival mode or this crazy yo-yo back and forth. Your cravings level out, your energy stabilizes, and eating can actually become something that you enjoy again, not something that you're always trying to control. And I hear women say it time and time again, like, oh, I just don't want to think about food anymore. But I mean, the reality is that thinking about food is not the problem. We can think about food in a really enjoyable way. It's overthinking about food that becomes problematic. So let's talk about what exactly this looks like in real life. So if you are successfully, consciously consuming and in this place of food freedom, you're eating the appropriate amount of food. So that's the main thing, is that you are eating at a maintenance level piece. You are no longer skipping meals. You're not eating like a bird during the week and then going crazy weekend warrior. You know how to fuel yourself when you have a crazy week full of meetings. You know what it looks like when you're traveling. You can pivot, you can adapt, you can do all of those things without sliding into points of overconsumption or points of underconsumption. So you know how to support your body through it all. That's the first big thing, is that no matter what, and it's not going to be perfect every single day, but consistently over time, you are eating the appropriate amount of food. Not high, not low. While you're here, you also have habits that anchor your nutrition that make eating the appropriate amount really, really simple. And again, it doesn't have to look perfect every single day, but this looks like understanding the meal timing that works the best for your body. So being able to get into a consistent rhythm with eating, having adequate amounts of protein at each meal to make sure that you are not having these crazy dips in hunger, understanding how to stabilize your blood sugar. We don't have to, again, obsess over all of these things right now. We gathered data and it doesn't need to be perfect. We're not all elite athletes here, but having these anchored habits that allow you to understand and make it easier to eat the appropriate amounts when you're not inputting every single thing into your app. With that lens of perfection, the other thing that comes into play here is letting that stuff go. Like, you can actually enjoy yourself on a weekend away. If it's a girl's trip, it's not that you need to always eat the exact same way you would eat if you were trying to track everything to a T and hit your goals, but you know where your freedom and flexibility comes in. And that's when I say conscious consumption really allows you to eat in alignment with your goals. In alignment can look different. It could look different for different weekends. It could look different for different travel scenarios. It can look different for different weeks or seasons of your life overall, but you know how to lean in and listen to your body. And that's really what's at the core of conscious consumption, is that we're no longer dampening our cues and trying to avoid them. That can happen with chronic dieting consistently. We've ignored hunger or ignored cravings or ignored having that desire to have the sweet treats or whatever it is. We're not doing that. We're not shoving it down, but we're also not listening to the signs and cues of overconsumption either. So when we've gone through the beginning phases of the work of understanding our total daily energy expenditure and playing around with finding how to fuel our body in the right way. Again, that's why learning how to eat for your metabolism and reversing out first is super, super important, so we can listen here and we can trust what our body's saying, so we can find that freedom and flexibility while we're going out and about without rigidity and obsession, and finding that enjoyment again. So when you're consciously consuming, you know how to support your body and you know how to support it through all the crazy times of life so we don't slip into old patterns, but there's enjoyment in the process as well, because that's the only way that we're going to do something long term, is if we don't loathe it. So the goal here is to bring that level of enjoyment back to your eating habits. It's not just what you eat, it's how you think about yourself, how you think about food, it's your habits, it's your identity of really leaning into being the person who takes care of herself. So let's get practical here for a second. If you're anything like me, I love practical tips. So what can you do in order to find some of those habitual anchors that are going to help you not slip back into old patterns? First, let's start on the nutritional side of things. Simple ones, or I guess 4 really simple ones, would be prioritize protein at every meal. Look at planning ahead without obsessing. Planning ahead can look very different. So if it's understanding, okay, I'm going to need to prep some things a little more than I usually do, or I'm going to pack snacks. That's kind of my extra 4. One is always pack snacks if you need to. That's a main thing for me, is just making sure that I'm not going to get to a place where my hunger is super, super rampant and then I can't trust it anymore and things start to fall apart. So prioritizing protein there, making sure that you're planning ahead, just kind of looking at what's to come for the day, for the week. Pack some things to have on hand so it's super simple. And then you can just use a plate visual. So wherever you're at, just trying to find that balance so you can support your body's cues. I know we don't have control over every single thing, but trying to make sure that we have some form of protein, carb, fat, fiber. You can build some color, a variety of textures and tastes. That way your body is getting what it needs and it's not going to throw us some weird cues after that meal. It's not just about nutritional habits though. We really have to understand how to lean into understanding the mindset side of things, especially there's such a direct link between our brain and our body when it comes to our hunger cues and the hormonal sides that are happening there. So from the mindset side, just taking a moment to pause and truly connecting. What does my body need? How am I feeling in this moment? And just taking a quick 5 seconds, a few breaths to see exactly where you need to be. We're in this constant state of rushing all the time, and it's really hard to consciously consume and build that trust when you're in that really heightened state. The other piece is just looking at your triggers and your habits. It is okay to eat for reasons outside of true hunger. I am not saying that you need to fall into that category. You can eat because things just taste really freaking good. You can eat because you like having a snack at the movie theater if you're anything like me. Or if it's just while you sit down on the couch, whatever it is, that's where the data helps us at the beginning to understand how to do those. But just being mindful here on what those habits are, and are they leading us to who we want to be, or are they pulling us back into those old habits? So just be conscious of what's happening there. And then lastly, practice self-compassion when you fall out of your routine. It's going to happen. You might as well just start to expect it. You're going to be imperfect. And just like I said at the beginning, this is a passive phase. It is a skill. It is going to take practice. And we also have to practice that compassionate lens. That's probably the hardest piece. The other pieces that we have to keep in mind if we are going to be able to build this trust outside of nutrition and our mindset is just looking at lifestyle factors. So training consistently. So we have that movement to be able to normalize where our hormones and energy levels are going, but then also on having a very healthy outlet for our stress. Look at our sleep, look at our hydration. Both of those things are going to impact our adherence and our hunger cues. And if we want to be able to trust our body, we can't just focus on feeding it, but we have to look at how our whole system is working. So again, we don't need to be perfect every single day, but looking at building really, really simplistic habits that allows you to find that compound consistency over time so that you can find your rhythm, your structure, your routine, so you can look your best and feel your best simultaneously. I'm going to say it time and time and time again, but remember, this is why we talked about gathering data first. Data has a purpose. It is a tool, not a task. It allows you to get to this place, and it can come in when we find ourselves maybe in a point of frustration or we feel like we're slipping, to be able to say, hey, my body's trying to ask for something. I'm not getting it quite right. Let me go ahead and dive back into the data and see what tweak I need to make. Then we can go ahead and skirt back into this phase. Again, it does not need to be this All in, I'm tracking every single thing. All out, I'm never doing it again. Allow yourself to live in the middle ground. The longer you practice this, the easier it takes. The habits start to take off the heavy lifting. So if it feels a little tricky, a little sticky, a little hard at first, that's totally fine. It's just because it's new. It's new and it's different. It doesn't mean it's bad, but knowing that it's going to start to feel automatic the longer you allow yourself to stay here. Remember, you're not in a race, you're in a rhythm. I need you to let go of the idea that if you are not losing or seeing these crazy external changes, that you're failing. Staying at maintenance and continually supporting yourself is progress. Building trust in your body and understanding your hunger cues and maintaining high levels of energy and not obsessing over food anymore and feeling like you can recover and want to go play with your kids, all of that is progress. And all of that is much more meaningful than what you weigh on the scale. When you stop chasing constant results over and over and over again, and you start chasing being in alignment with who you want to be, that's when sustainability actually clicks in. So before we wrap up for the day, let's just go ahead and zoom out for a second to look at what we've covered in this 3-part podcast series. In part 1, we talked about understanding your metabolism or your total daily energy expenditure. We busted the myth of feeling like you need to box yourself into one way of doing things and understanding how to look at the energy demands that your body needs and then being able to signal predictable results from there with data as a tool, not a task. In part 2, we talked about the rebuilding side of things, the reverse dieting piece, eating more, leaning into that side of things without fear, and why we need to do it to build our body up, not just internally and give our body what it needs, but also to maintain the results that we had built in the first part of understanding our metabolism. So understanding where our body's at right now, what we need, and then how we can increase our intake long-term to make sure that we're not tanking our metabolic rate along the way. And then today in part 3, we got to talk about how that data unlocks this piece of food freedom so we can live in the middle ground of not obsessing over everything that we're doing, but also maintaining the results along the way. Kind of like having your cake and eating it too. Whether you are just starting out on your journey or you've been chasing these results for years, I hope this mini-series has been helpful for you. And if you take away anything, just know that results are never going to come from the extremes. Real results comes from understanding your body, honoring what it needs, and layering in the habits that align with your goals. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this allowed you to maybe shift your perspective a bit and feel a little less stuck. If you are still feeling like you're spinning your wheels and you understand everything that I've been covering, but you're looking at taking that next step of gathering support, what does it look like for you day to day? Then I'd love to connect. You can go ahead and book a call through the link in the show notes. If you mention this podcast, you get a 10% discount off of our program, Finding Fire, where we really put everything together. We talk about gathering data, making sure that we're implementing it into your lifestyle without obsession, walking through that reverse, making sure we get to this place of conscious consumption, but really allowing you to build self-compassion along the way. So if that's something that you're looking for, feel free to book a call below and we can start chatting.